In this video, we will demonstrate how to create a to-do list web application in ASP.NET with C# using JetBrains Writer and AI assistance. To begin, create a new empty ASP.NET MVC application. I will also pull up my browser where I have one of the Bootstrap samples loaded that has the example HTML for a checkbox list. The default ASP.NET application we have set up has a home page controller and an index view file and function that are related. If we run the application, we will see the default welcome message, HTML. The first thing we will do is remove that HTML and replace it with our checkbox example. Once we have just the checkbox list on the page, we can also add a title for our to-do list app. Next, we need to decide where the data for this should live and what it should look like. As is common practice, I will use JSON for this example, and for the sake of simplicity, I will just store the data in a file on the computer I am working on. You might want to store the data in a database or in the cloud somewhere else. Because we are demonstrating the AI assistant, I will be using a simple technique for our controller, where we outline in code comments what we want to happen in the code. I will type the following comments. Read a list of to-do items from a file. For this program, we will store our things to do in JSON. Create a new class that handles the to-do items that can have a title and description. We also need to track if the item is completed or not and show a checkbox as checked if it is. Let's also go back to the top and make a note if the file doesn't exist yet. Create a placeholder. This is because I do not want to create the file myself manually, and it will need to exist for our application to use it. Once we have a basic outline of the app, select the comments and hit Ctrl+/ to bring up the inline AI assistant prompt. Here, we will tell it to implement the comments and give it some context so it knows we are just starting. I will type, implement the following for my to-do list app. I am just starting and need to set everything up from scratch, and decided to store my data as JSON in a file on my computer somewhere. The AI assistant will generate the code where our cursor was. Let's review the code it wrote. It wrote a block of code to create the file and store the path, another block to read the list of items from the file and store it in a list, the new class definition of our to-do item, and finally, a line of code to pass the data to the view using viewData. Let's organize this better. First, move the class outside of our existing class to the top of the file. Then I will use my Ctrl-K and Ctrl-F hotkeys in conjunction to format the code. Let's also fix the tabbing on the comments. Much better. Now we have readable code that will read the to-do list items from a file and hand over the data for the view to access. Next, we need to handle the rest of the front-end changes. At this point, let's demonstrate another technique with the AI assistant by attaching files to a new prompt. Attach both the view file and controller file. Now we will need to write the prompt to explain to the AI where we are at and what we want them to do. For this to-do application, we need to have a way to add new items to the list. Additionally, I want to be able to check and uncheck the to-do list items and have that action be stored in my data. So if we reload the application, our list is just how we left it. I will type the following prompt after attaching my files. I'm building a to-do list app, and I'm just starting. I have hard-coded my checkbox list so far, but I need to instead use the data that is being passed from viewData from my home controller file. I also need a way to create a new to-do list item and an add button. Finally, anytime I check or uncheck a box, I want to save that in my file using my completed property. The AI assistant will now respond with several code blocks, all of which need to go to different places, as well as information about what the code is doing. First, we will copy the code that will allow us to access the list of to-do items from the view data and place that near the top. Let's copy the HTML for the list and paste that over our hard-coded list of 3 items. This way, it will load the data from the view data that is hydrated from our JSON file. Next, let's copy the JavaScript function to the bottom of our view file. This script will trigger an HTTP request when an item is checked or unchecked. After that, we will need to copy the code into the controller so that the endpoint for that HTTP request will be in place. This code also contains the function to accept the form data for adding a new to-do list item. Finally, let's circle back to the front end and copy the form HTML at the top of our list. At this point, it looks like we don't have any errors. We should build the application and test it out to see if it works. As you can see, the application works great. I will show you the to-do JSON file so you can see the data being saved to it. With the right techniques, creating applications with the assistance of AI agents can be a breeze. Thanks for watching.